I'd like to welcome Uzair to Cyberbytes, the podcast. It's great to have you on. And Uzair, for the audience, is the CTO and co-founder of Right-Hand Cybersecurity. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me in this podcast, Stephen.
You're welcome, dude. For the audience that don't know you, I'd like to start. Could you introduce yourself, explain who you are, and also the problem that Right-Hand Security solves?
Definitely. So yeah, my name is Uzair, like Stephen mentioned. I'm CTO and co-founder of Right-Hand Cybersecurity. Right-Hand Cybersecurity is a human risk management platform. What we do, we help companies to make their employees more resilient against cyber threat. One of the major problem that we have seen and faced in the market is most of the companies were relying on technological solutions. While technology solution is a need of the market, they are not good enough to change the human behavior. Whenever that technology layer was failing, the companies were getting breached. And right now, based on the statistics, based on the latest report that Verizon published as well, 88% of the attacks are successful just because of a human error. So these are
88.
not malicious,
Wow.
88%. So, and unfortunately, it's not something that it's a malicious intent. It is like people are not just prepared. They are not conditioned enough. They do not have enough awareness how they can protect themselves. So that is where the companies like Right-Hand Cybersecurity steps in. They help them to build a second layer of defense
Sure.
by empowering, by training their employees, by conditioning their employees against real world scenarios. So they should get more familiarity, how they can identify these attacks, how they can protect themselves while they are spending time with their families, while they are working in their office. So we help them to basically get this cyber awareness and protect themselves.
Cool. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of questions that I want to ask later on in the podcast around that, because yeah, it's, as you say, the human element is still massive and it's the biggest risk. But before we jump into that, can we just rewind and take it back to your earlier days? Like what's your story? How did it all happen for you to eventually end up as a co-founder and CTO of your own startup?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I'm always a startup guy. So I used to work, it's been like more than a decade since I'm working with startups. I also believe on learning from the other people's experiences as well. So in the early days, I was working as a technology consultant to different startups. Then I joined as a head of technology in one of the startup in Singapore. Uh, the birth of right-hand idea was very organic. So my co-founder was from the cybersecurity space. I used to head security teams in my previous career. So when we were trying to do this, we were going for an organic idea. And that is something which I will recommend as well. If anyone is planning to start a new company, start a new startup, is do not go for a solution, go and identify a need in the market. So we were validating like what is the, because this is something which was a trend that my co-founder has heard a couple of times, that we are paying millions of dollars to these technology company, but still we are getting reached. So I guess there was a very interesting incident that happened while we were doing the research. So we met with a cybersecurity reseller company who recently had a mistake of BC attack and paid $600,000.
Wow.
And for them, the idea was like, can you do something? Because it was just an employee mistake who did not identify that there was an intruder in that thread. So we started validating that, are there any other companies who are trying to, or who are facing something similar?
Yeah.
And then we realized like this is something which is a problem for every individual company. Of course, the priority of this problem can vary based on the size of the company. But this is a massive problem that people are dealing with right now. The industry was relying on it was not something that we have thought about this solution for the very first time. There were certain companies who were providing awareness training. So then we started investigating like what is happening in the ecosystem, why the industry is not effective in that way. And we realized that the industry overall was actually driven by compliance requirements. So most of the cyber awareness training was like once every year you are getting that cyber awareness training, and then you are exporting a report, and that was sufficient for your compliance requirement. It was not designed to change the behavior. So that was one of the biggest learning for us. So then we started validating this idea from with different CISOs, which is an
Mhm.
ideal persona that we're dealing with right now. And we started getting their feedback. I still remember our first sale was on a PPT slide. We don't have any product back then. It was just an idea. It was just like people would be like, okay, there are solutions that we have used. We did not find it more effective. Can you solve this problem for us? And that actually gave birth to Right-Hand product
Mm.
that we started by solving one problem at a time.
Yeah.
And up till it's been more than 4 years, we do not add any feature in our product until unless it's not validated by our existing customer or future prospects.
Yeah, interesting. And when you were like an IC and then progressed into management and leadership roles on the tech side, did you always see yourself starting your own like gig? Because I hear different things from founders, and was it always the route you're like, okay, I do want to run something myself eventually, or did it just coincidentally just happen?
So it is actually. So in my past career, I have tried a couple of startups. So I have a few failed startups in the past. But again, I started back in my country. Again, at that time, the startup ecosystem was not that mature. So the whole idea I relocated to Singapore was with an idea to actually start something new. So it's not the first time I did this. And that is one of the reasons I never wanted to work with MNCs in my past career because I'm a kind of guy who wanted to see impact in real time. So I love to work with founders. I still hang out with a lot of founders to learn from their experiences, what challenges they are facing, what I can learn from their experiences. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it's something which is kind of ingrained in me. But again, I did enjoy my time as an IC as well, and now
Yeah.
as a founder, of course, it comes with a lot
Yeah.
more responsibilities. But yeah.
No, sure. And I know we were briefly discussing before, but you founded Right-Hand Security back in 2019. And in the last 5 years, the events we've had have been pretty crazy. Right. What's your how has that 5 years been? And keen to understand, like, are there any like key learnings from the events that we've been through that you could share that maybe other founders are experiencing or are looking to start up, and you want to share with them insight from your experience over that time?
Yeah, definitely. I usually joke about this, like we are kind of lucky or unlucky founders who have seen pretty much every situation. We have seen Corona period, then we have seen this recession period. And I guess the biggest learning that helped us to sustain, because we have seen it actually did not work well for a lot of companies, is that from day one, me and my co-founder we were focusing on ROIs. Our North
Mm.
Star was always ROI and how we can keep ourselves lean. We do not believe on having a fancy lifestyle. Like usually, sometimes as an entrepreneur is considered as a taboo, right? Okay, being an entrepreneur, you raise money and you have a lavish lifestyle. So we try to keep ourselves super lean. Our focus is always on in terms of our customers, how we
Yeah.
can keep our customer happy, how we can keep on innovating our product to keep it relevant to the market. Because most of the time, what usually happens is you start with something and then you just try to sell whatever you think is a solution of the market. Unfortunately, this is a good learning for us, and maybe it will be more for most of the founders as well. The
Yeah.
market situation is changing very rapidly. You have to adapt to the needs of the market. You have to adapt to the advanced technological solutions. Like previously, I usually quote this example that one of the famous teaching of in our industry is whenever you are going and identifying a phishing email, just go and look at the grammar. Just go and look at like
Yeah.
if there are any typo mistake. Now we have generative AI. No one is going to type these emails and making these grammatical mistakes. People are using these generative AI tools to craft really advanced, legit templates. And even like now, people are crafting lookalike templates when they are where they are identifying the writing pattern. So
Sure.
this was again one of the teaching that used to run. Okay, see like if the writing pattern is different than what you used to get. So
Yeah.
now you have to be extra careful. And when you are teaching your people, when you are incorporating solutions around your product, you have to think about this. Like, okay, now with these new circumstances, is my
Mm.
product
Yeah.
having sufficient solution available for the market needs or not?
Yeah. It's interesting. The point you make about being lean, I think we've all seen it right in the market, especially over the last 12 months, just the workforce cuts where people have overhired. They've
Exactly.
arguably got a little bit excited with the funding and they've gone a bit crazy with the hiring side. What tips would you give? So like you said, you've kept lean, which has been really like beneficial to you as a business. Like how have you done that? Like what decisions come around staying lean? Yeah, is there anything you can share there?
Yeah, I guess for this, I usually give a lot of credit to my co-founder as well, and that is why I always recommend people to have a co-founder, because in this case, you always keep challenging each other on different decisions. So we usually try to first understand the actual need that we have. So right now, we do not believe on overhiring. We usually hire when we identify that, okay, now there's a legit need where we need to fill. We identify that what is the gap that we have in the company that we need to fill. Then we usually go after on that particular persona. We do not open random roles in the company.
Sure.
We identify needs, we create a persona around those needs, and we usually go for a very targeted hiring for those roles.
Yeah, nice.
Again, there are pros and cons for that one. Of course, that can extend our hiring cycle time, which is
Yeah.
not sometimes ideal for the companies, but at the same time, when you hire someone, you know that, okay, this is the person that you need in your organization. And that is something which we have seen that right now
Yeah.
we have an amazing retention period. And that is the only reason behind this is we only hire people that we need in,
Yeah.
in, in the company.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think I don't know how many companies do that, but as you say, looking at if you've won a new business, for example, or close a new customer, then working back from that, right, and just identifying where the
Exactly.
gaps are, makes sense. And one thing I wanted to cover, because I know you guys at Right-Hand Security, you're doing things slightly differently, I believe, from some of your competition in the sense that we spoke about the gamification piece.
Right.
Are you able to share some more insight of what you're doing around that and how that's potentially different from your traditional sort of like cyber training?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess what I usually portray it this way, like our competitors have done an excellent job. So I usually admire them the way they have articulated the awareness industry. But what I strongly believe in when we started this company is to identify like what are the challenges, what are the lapses that
Mm,
still exist in the industry, and how to define this industry for the next year. So initially, like I said, it was a very driven industry, and people were happy with that check off the box training. We use this lingo where you are providing the same content to everyone. But the manual nature of this content distribution and the whole idea of these long, boring videos was working well whenever we were only dealing with boomers generation, right? So
yeah,
I like to read a lot about like how different generations are evolving, what are their interests, what attracts them. There is a reason why even platforms like YouTube and other are everyone is transitioning to Reels, because the shift in generation, the attention span is changing. And
yeah,
people do not have people have the capacity to watch long videos. So that was one thing that we learned from the industry. The second thing was like sometimes people were sourcing products. There's an immense shortage of human resources that exist in cybersecurity today. I
mm,
guess if I'm not wrong, the projection is by the end of 2024, it will be, don't quote me on this number, I guess 3 million empty jobs. I'm not sure what is the right number, but the number is significantly high as compared to other industries. People do not have enough human resources in their organization to manage
mm,
generational tool. And the third thing is everything was designed on some random content. So you are providing a training to an employee stating that there will be a web page that you will see on your browser, and then you have to save yourself. So these are the learnings that we extracted. And the first thing that we implemented is a completely automated a cyber awareness program, which
mm,
was interactive. It has adaptive learning and it was completely gamified. So
nice.
how we have designed this is that instead of feeding the same content to everyone, it basically understands the learning appetite of each individual, knowledge retention span of each individual, and creates personalized journey of each individual employee. And it even personalized content based on the department of the user. So you just define, all you have to do is to configure your parameters. Every company can configure their own parameters.
Yeah.
And the awareness platform runs on an autopilot. And the
Nice.
whole awareness platform is very interactive. So it's not something that you will be watching a video to learn something. It's interactive exercises. So you will be typing your password and you can see in real time based on your company policy. So every company can define their own policy. And you can only pass that scenario if you will be typing the password that is matching with your company needs. So the next time when you are typing your password for your corporate account, you should know like, okay, what are the criteria I need to define? It's not like, okay, you should have 7 characters or 8 characters.
Yeah.
Same is the case for a malicious website. You have to go and choose on the browser. So you can see like how different typos or domains will appear in this browser window when you will be interacting on your mobile phone or desktop. So the complete experience was very interactive. And then we have some games like bubble burst games. So you are just playing a game while you are learning a concept. Uh, and the major thing was while you're doing these activities, everything is gamified. You are unlocking badges. There is a leaderboard where you are competing with each other individually, department wise, office location wise.
Nice.
So the whole journey was very interactive. So that actually helped us. This is something which only Right-Hand is offering today, this kind of platform.
Nice.
So that actually helped us that actually provided a lot of great feedback. But again, since the industry was very compliance driven, they also needed module-based training. So we thought like, okay, we are not going to do just videos because that is not something, again, what we interviewed a few employees, like, how do you complete your training? They will be like, okay, we have 2 monitors, and on one monitor we have these videos, and we brute force our way when it comes to questions to complete these trainings. So we started working on premium modules, which are very interactive modules. There are different games within the modules, and the content, you cannot just brute force your way. You have to complete the exercises to move to the next step. So that worked really well. So when we completed all this existing scenario, and then when it comes to phishing simulation, our approach was very data oriented. So it was not like, okay, you have 10% click rate. Okay, what does it mean for my company? What does it mean by this 10%? Our approach was very data oriented. Like, you need to know, like, at what particular time your employees are engaging. What are the devices where they are engaging? What are the sender personas where they're which are most risky for your employees? What are the type of email template they are engaging? Because a human behavior gets an impact based on time. Like late at night, you do not care about, you just respond to emails if you see something, if you are on your mobile. Same is the case if you are in vacation mode, your interest will be interacting with any discount deals. If you are in finance and there is an audit happening, you will not care like, okay, who is asking for information, because you have to take it. So all these things, same is the case when you join a new company, you are most likely to respond to see your emails to prove yourself that, okay, you are very responsive. So all these factors impact on human behavior. So the whole goal of Right-Hand is how we can change behavior. So we started with the journey of the simulated behavior. We provided this automated training. People really like it, but they will be like, this is a game, something that is proactive. What about like people are learning this, but since everyone, when they are working in the real world environment, the knowledge deteriorates. What you are doing in that environment, how you can help us in that environment. So right now we are working on the product where it will coach your users in real time. So we are integrating with the existing
Nice.
cybersecurity tools. So the moment an employee will make a mistake, we will provide them a coaching nudge. So it's something like you are in a playground and you make a mistake and your coach is there, and the coaches will immediately provide you a nudge like how you can improve. And after a couple of iterations, your behavior will change. So now basically the whole ecosystem of HRM is designed how we can change the behavior by not just checking the box, but providing the actual value to these organizations.
That's really interesting. How far off is that, do you think, that new advancement? Is that could that happen this year? Is that a long way off?
Already live.
Oh, it's already.
Alpha version is already live. So right now we are testing it with first early adopters.
Nice.
And the plan is like in next month or two, it will be available for everyone.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, great. Yeah, great addition. And in terms of like common mistakes that you see businesses make when it comes to employee inflicted cyber risk, what are maybe like the top 1 or 2 mistakes that you see? Is there like 1 or 2 that stand out amongst others?
Well, honestly speaking, I don't think so. These are the businesses that make these mistakes. Again, of course, not training them uh, against these attacks is a mistake. By the end of the day, you cannot expect people to have. One of the major mistake is to train them once every year and expect them they will retain this information, because realistically it's not possible. And that is something we have incorporated in it in our automated training awareness product as well. So there's a famous concept of space learning. It is from academia, and I guess it was initially introduced in 18th century, I guess 1800 something, if
Okay.
I'm not wrong about the date. The concept was designed that every human has a forgetting curve, and it varies from human to human. There's always a possibility that maybe I can retain an information for a week, but you can retain the same information for a month. So
Sure.
if you are training me after 1 week, oh, after 1 month, it's a useless exercise. I lost that concept a week, 3 weeks ago. But if we are training you every week, it's an overkill for you because you can retain the same knowledge. So you need to retrain a user by the time when they're about to forget that concept, and then they can retain that information for a longer period of time. So it's a very interesting concept. Anyone who is interested in academia or learning that usually it's usually done using flashcards, and that's the concept we replicated in our awareness product as well. You get the training in terms of flashcards, and then
Mm,
if you do not answer something correctly, it revises that concept immediately until unless you learn it, and then you also get revision based on your forgetting curve. So that
yeah.
is something which we encourage companies to make sure do not rely on yearly training. That will not make a difference. Of course, it will be good enough for your compliance needs, but if you really wanted to change the behavior, you have to make sure that the cyber awareness should be on top of their mind all the
Mhm.
time, because you never know when an employee is going to make a mistake, and it will not hurt individual, it will not hurt a department. It
Yeah.
This is the only mistake that will impact the complete company.
Mm. Especially with like generative AI, right? And that becoming more prominent, that's just going to open up so many more risks. Is a potential
Exactly.
part of your platform that do you have like a specific module for like AI related security? Because like even phishing attacks, right, where a human doesn't have to write an email, it can be automatically generated. Um, how do you see AI having an impact for your business?
Right. So basically, we have an in-house content team. That's the first thing. So we don't rely on any external production companies for the content, because by the end of the day, then you cannot keep your content up to date. And the way the cyber threat landscape is changing every day, you have to make sure that your training content is
Yeah.
updating ev pretty much every month. So that is what we are doing right now. So every month, our content team identifies what are the latest needs, what are the latest trends, and then they generate these modules that we assign to all of our customers to use them to train their employees. And
Nice.
since the nature of this content is we call micro learning, so these are bite-sized module, maximum 4 or 5 minutes. So it does not take like 40 minutes of their time, like a punishment that someone is asking you to spend 40 minutes on learning every month, but it refreshes it in their mind. And the same case, they can also have, like, we keep on updating, adding, we keep on adding more content in our gamified platform. So
Mhm.
practically speaking, that is where they do not need to move a finger. All they need to do is to just go in this call, just configure it, and our system will keep on sending the new data to their employees.
Yeah, interesting.
Excuse me.
That's cool. Yeah. And how do you see the next maybe couple of years playing out in the cybersecurity space? Have you potentially identified any trends, or what's your thoughts on where the cybersecurity space could be in the next few years and developments within that?
Well, AI and automation, these will be the two key themes that I foresee, because based on these generative AI, and AI in general is getting that mature that it can resolve half of the problems. Right now, the massive issue for any infosec manager, for example, is to deal with false positives, right?
Sure.
That's the major noise that they are dealing with. So AI will be solving a lot of these problems. And then we need to have automation to address the deficiency of human resources. And that is a focus of Right-Hand as well. This year, we are planning to automate every single aspect of our platform, where you can
Nice.
just configure and you can rely on its effectiveness.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Cool. Is there I mean, it's been a pleasure. You've shared some absolute, awesome insights. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
No, by the end of the day, it's all about how you learn when you're in the industry. So I will recommend everyone, like, okay, there's always a possibility, and this is something that I try for myself, is to learn from other successful founders. If you are starting a new company, if you are dealing with cybersecurity, that is where I will recommend to keep yourself up to date with all the cyber practically speaking, the complete threat landscape, to understand what are the new things that are happening, how they are relevant to your industry, and what you can do to serve your customers in a more effective way.
Sure. And if the audience want to get in touch with you or the team at Right-Hand Security, what's the best way that they can do that?
Well, they can always, so our website have a support option. They can, if they want to connect with me, they are all more than welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can search Uzair Ahmed Gilani, and I will be more than happy to get in touch with them. If anyone has any questions.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on, dude. Appreciate your time. Good to chat, and we'll chat again soon.
Thanks a lot, Stefan, for having me. Take care.
No worries. Take it easy.